Welcome to the Finisher Up podcast about professional wrestling and all things, well, wrestling. Here are your hosts, Jerry Pickering and Dan Naraki.
Hey.
There it is.
We are back.
There it went. Hey, we're back.
Another week right here on The Finisher, right here on the Facebook, facebook.com/The Finisher podcast. We are live every week for you.
Maybe
And
Saturday. Usually Saturday.
Usually Saturday.
We're getting pretty good. You know, we're finally into double digits in this season. And I think we've done Saturday like 3 times in a row, so I think we're officially in the swing of things again.
But I will go ahead and put it out there. I haven't mentioned it to you yet, but the weekend of the 7th
Of
August,
okay.
I will be, more than likely, I'll be out of town. So
We'll either have to record something ahead of time, or you're going to be stuck with a monologue. So we'll have to discuss that.
we'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
That
That's what I said.
came to light yesterday. So, all right. Well, welcome to the podcast. You can find us Facebook.com/The Finisher Podcast. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on all of our podcasting websites, which just recently we were added to.
Finally.
Finally. Sorry. Added to iHeartRadio. So
We're back, bitches.
we're back on iHeart, you sons of bitches. So if you go to, sorry about that, excuse me. If you go to thefinisherpodcast.com and click where to find us, you can find all of our social, and you can also find where to listen to us on podcasts. Go ahead and follow us on iHeart. Follow us on all the podcast things. Every time our podcast uploads, you will be notified right away. Your pocket will vibrate. You never know. You're going to like it. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be great. And I know it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not the same as it used to be. We got to figure out a better way to say that.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now you're tickling. You're taking a week off. You're tickling people's pockets. What next, man?
Well, I'll tell you what's next. What's next is right there.
That's not next. That's just the same. That is just the same. And unlike other weeks and other events, I can't really be pissed that you retain the title, because I willingly made some stretched out there, made some predictions. However, I'm glad to be wrong on one front. I'm glad to be wrong that. Whew, okay. You're getting some love in the comments already. I am glad to be wrong that about Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy, and I'm hopeful that Jericho taking this win this past Wednesday night means that there will be more between those two, because they put on a hell of a match to close out Fyter Fest this past week.
Yes, they did.
But according to what's left of Nielsen, that wasn't the most that match, did not have the most viewership of the week, did it?
No. Look at that. Seasoned professional.
It loses its effect when we point it out like every time we
I know.
pull off a
But
segue.
it's so great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I pop up here. Go away. Cancel.
I'll segue to myself then.
I had something pop up Microsoft Store. I apologize. Technology, it's great. So, with 900,000 viewers, the main event, I'm hoping this is where you were going, of the Great American Bash pulled in 900,000 viewers. And it was already given out who won. It was leaked. So people knew already who was going to win, but they still wanted to see Keith Lee and Adam Cole. Okay, and Adam Cole go one-on-one. Title versus title, with Keith Lee winning, being Keith Lee two straps. Whatever you want to call him. I don't know, Vince is really keen, I guess, on giving somebody 2 titles.
It's weird. It's been an era of double champions, hasn't it been?
Because you got Becky was like the first one.
Yeah.
Bayley's now Becky, as she likes to be called, Becky Dose Straps.
Well, okay. I mean, yeah, she has the tag straps
and now Keith Lee having the NXT Championship and the North American title.
There's so many things to come out of this, though. Is the interesting bit now. Like, what do you do with what do you do with that North American title? Because generally, what happens when you have something like this happen, the secondary title gets vacated, and then you have a tournament, which is fine. It gives an opportunity for them to put some shine on someone else, and I'm hopefully whoever they end up putting the belt on faces Roddy Strong in the finals of the tournament for it, and then you have so many places that you can go with Adam Cole. We might finally start the beginning of the breakup of the Undisputed Era. There's still all those rumors about whether or not he's even going to be around that much longer. Just confusion over the reporting about his contract. So who knows? There's so much that can come out of this. I'm surprised they pulled the trigger here and now, but also, interestingly enough, they pulled the trigger at an event specifically to counter-program AEW. And I don't believe the story that says, oh no, they were going to do this months ago. They had this plan.
Nope.
Like, they gave this was a 3-week heads up because they had a 3-week heads up on Fyter Fest. Don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself, boss.
This was in retaliation. That's
how this whole thing works. That's how these promotional wars work, and it's great for business. That's the best part.
We're not going to get, a group of guys showing up in a tank. That's not going to happen this time. It's going to be different with things like this.
Do we want to hold that link for later, or do you want me to get that out now?
Well, we can move on. We were talking about, double straps. Everyone's getting, the new titles.
Right.
And, WWE is one title we know that they're not going to be able to give out.
Yeah, there were more questions of how this was even possible at first, but as we made mention last week, that the scheduled match for the AEW World Championship was off on Fyter Fest Night 2 because Jon Moxley was going to be home for a couple more weeks as his wife tested positive for COVID-19, so he got to be in isolation, and as far as we know, has not tested positive himself yet. So as far as we know, this match is a go for this coming Wednesday at Fight for the Fallen, which seems really fast to kind of be back-to-back in these special episodes, because you do it enough and they're no longer special.
Exactly.
That's neither here nor there. So what shows up on Wednesday night? Taz, Brian Cage, and the FTW Championship. And if you weren't an ECW, like an actual original ECW fan, it pisses me off that I have to delineate actual, real, no shit, original ECW, and then the horseshit that came afterward. Afterwards.
The one WWE did wasn't real?
Yeah, no, that wasn't real.
That was just a dream.
Not even Paul Heyman will put his own title on himself. Not even Paul Heyman would beat Rob Van Dam in the middle of the ring.
That's true.
That remembers that from what? I want to say the end of 97, the beginning of 98, that area?
98.
So, because I know you asked, and I had to give you a quick history lesson last night when we were talking about this earlier. So, basically, the original FTW title was there for the same reason that they gave, that Taz gave to give it to Brian Cage now. He wasn't getting the titles, wasn't getting the world title shot, and wasn't getting the world title shot, so he said, screw it, I'm making my own.
That's true. I mean, there's other reasons why he wasn't getting the title shot. He had the title shot. But,
well, yeah.
Corona.
Well, that's what makes me wonder whether or not this match is even going to happen this week. Or if they decided to go with this as a just in case. Like they're waiting until the last minute to say whether or not, waiting for the last possible moment to test Mox.
That's exactly what's happening. And then they're just going to, once the title actually happens, the match actually happens, Moxley will win. And then there'll be a promo, well, you've already got that pointless title.
Maybe.
That means nothing.
At the same time, the way you brought Cage in, there's nothing for him to do but immediately destroy the champion. And then
True.
you spend the next couple of months telling the chase. Like, I don't know how else this is supposed to go. And I wouldn't have believed they would end Mox's reign this quickly. But it almost it almost feels like they've booked themselves into a corner with Brian Cage. Like, he's Batista with a lot more skill. Brian Cage is not going to be curtain jerking in the opening match on TV. He's that kind of guy where he's on the top of he's doing things on the top of the card, or he's not on the card.
That's true. Now you had something you wanted to go to. What was it?
When?
Before I went into the whole Taz thing.
Well, we've already moved on, so there's no
okay.
connection. So we'll just pick it up at the very end here.
Gotcha. I understand. I was trying to read my sheet, but I can't read it too far away.
Which is why I said, should I go to that link? And then you said, no, let's go to the other story. I'm like, okay.
I didn't even know what link you wanted to go to. I figured that was it. My apologies. See, we don't plan things out.
Which makes me feel real good about all the prep I give you.
I have everything open. I have everything
the link
open.
You sent me. I wouldn't have known about this link and found something to yell about unless you hadn't sent it to me. That's neither here nor there. We'll cut this out later when we do it live.
Screw you.
We'll just edit this out later.
All right. See, I have nowhere to go. Well, let's see here. I'm this sheet. I can't read it. I gotta redo it myself.
You print it. I don't.
I know.
I just keep it open up here.
So what?
Oh yeah. I still get to yell though. So that title match may or may not happen. We're getting more details now as we get closer to. Make sure I got this right. Make sure I stop me if I've got this. Pick this up right. Is officially this not tomorrow, but next Sunday, the horror show at Extreme Rules.
Yeah. That's now a thing. They've changed the name, I think, 2 or 3 times.
This is the third different. Okay, I want to make sure that I got it straight. So we got our naming conventions correctly. We'll do the predictions for that, by the way, next Saturday.
And it's looking like there's gonna be 3 cinematic matches.
Yeah, this card is all gimmicked up. All kinds of gimmicked up.
Because we've got the Bray Wyatt swamp match.
Right.
We've got
the new match that was announced last night.
Yeah, the bar fight match with Sheamus and Jeff Hardy.
There's some potential there. There's definitely some potential there.
And the one that I know are so excited about.
Oh yeah.
An eye for an eye match.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio.
We're getting our second eye for an eye match this year, as AEW did one back in February. But the main difference was it was between 2 guys who had eye injury or who had storyline eye injuries. AEW did not put out a press release like WWE had to do this week to say that the object of the match was to remove one of the competitor's eyes.
So how does this work down the road? When the match is over, an eye was removed.
Frickin' point.
And
even though
3 months from now, they have a match and they have both eyes.
Even though they have come out and said that we're going to use CGI, that's what all the reports coming out of Florida is. We're going to use CGI to do this. What do you do Monday night? Okay. No one is going to believe that you're going to pull another man's eye out of his fucking eye socket. Okay? Don't do stupid shit we know you're not going to do. It's a whole lot different. This is a whole lot different. There's nothing in either of these characters, and we know no matter what you do cinematically, no one is going to let another human being pull their own fucking eye out of their head. I was gonna. When I walked in, I'm like, I'm not gonna curse this time.
No, go. It's fine. This is completely reasonable.
It just blows my mind as to why you would do that.
Stupid.
And then so what do? Do you CGI, like, okay, so Seth Rollins loses. Do you CGI every one of his matches from here on out? Do you expect us to believe in 2 months when he goes away and comes back that his actual eye is glass from now on, when you can clearly tell the difference?
Yes.
Why would you? Why would you do something that everyone knows is bullshit? Everyone knows. Even if you did this in the 80s, when it was still real to people, you would lose people, because the last thing that they would expect, nor would they want to see. Explain to me who in the fucking creative room thinks that someone wants to turn on the television and watch a man's eye get pulled out of his fucking skull? Who decides that this was something that needs to be on television? It's not The Walking Dead, where you're pulling out your guts and gore for the sake of zombies. It makes sense in that context.
Yes.
If I may steal a line from one of my new favorite YouTube channels, who fucking booked this? And why do they have a job right now?
But Dan, you know what this is, right?
Nope.
This is such good shit.
This is why Raw has now set another ranking, new record for the lowest ratings possible, and SmackDown is on the verge. SmackDown's in trouble with its parent network, and people are just giving up. They're not switching the channel. Unfortunately, they're not switching the channel to another wrestling product. They're just giving up on this because this is fucking hoo-ha.
Last night was pure. From everything I read, pure garbage.
I don't know what you sent me a clip of. Like, it was like some fucked up karaoke dance competition that maybe they would have done in the 90s, except everyone had too much clothes for the 90s. I don't get it.
That's exactly what it was.
And Fox has to look at that and going, we're paying $300 million a year for this?
It looked like it started off showing Tamina doing Triple H's theme song, and then it showed Naomi doing Dusty Rhodes' theme song. And there's another clip of someone doing Dana Brooke doing the Honky Tonk Man's theme song. Why are they doing karaoke? You're taking that Divas, the Women's Evolution, and taking it back to the Divas.
Yeah.
You're kicking them on back. Like, just everything that was worked for, everything that was done, first ever Hell in a Cell, no longer Divas champion, it's now the women's championship. What's the point of it? It's all gone now. You're going backwards.
Thanks, Bruce.
Fucking idiots.
Wouldn't this time have been better spent on your wrestling show, having those three wrestle
in a match?
Because all three of them are wrestlers.
Well, from what I see in this clip, you've got Naomi, Tamina Snuka, you've got Dana Brooke, and you have Lacey Evans. There's a tag match right there.
Yeah. Since you apparently only have two fucking tag teams that continuously go back and forth with these women's tag belts that you made.
3.
2.
You have Sasha Banks and Bayley.
Yep.
The Iconics.
That 1 week they were on TV, sure.
And Alexa Bliss and Crazy Nikki Cross.
There's 2 tag teams. There's basically, at this point, the women's division is 4 women and everyone else. Sorry, 6 technically. 5, I guess.
Let's see. It says Tamina, Naomi, Lacey Evans, Dana Brooke face the music in this WWE SmackDown Karaoke Challenge.
And that did what? That did what?
Nothing.
I mean, I'm sure I could list and I could give you a top 25 list of ways that time could have been better spent, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone's on the phone this morning from Fox going,
what the hell was that?
Why am I giving you Friday primetime when it could be just as cheaper for me to make back-to-back episodes so you can dance with everyone socially isolated in masks? I'm not paying $300 million for garbage.
You want to know what would get better ratings? of that more than that? Reruns of The Mask, or The Masked Singer.
Possibly.
Reruns
Our
of The
Friday night
Masked Singer.
primetime line, for all you care, our Friday night primetime line could be Pip farting on a snare drum. I ain't farting on no snare drum.
Oh, sweet Jesus. So yeah,
you've never seen Airheads, I take it.
It's been a long time.
Okay.
Adam, people don't remember Adam Sandler was in that movie.
I don't think okay. Yeah, probably not.
Oh my gosh. So I'm thrown off by that. I apologize. This whole karaoke thing has just got me pissed off and annoyed as you, because I mean, it's not wrestling. What's the point? What did it do?
I mean, say what you want. Yes, AEW did a puppy battle royal, 2 puppy battle royals this week, but it was a YouTube exclusive. They didn't waste TNT's airtime with it.
No.
I was confused. I felt like I was having a fever dream.
So Fox has cut golf.
Yeah, Fox has cut. Well, I mean, to be fair,
nothing's stopping them.
Maybe the only golf that Fox was doing was the U.S. Open, and they're still breaking. I guess they're still saving 40-some million by cutting out of that. It didn't make any sense for their sports profile. They just had it to have it. I'll give that as a television analysis. But this has to be one of those things. Like and I haven't seen any numbers for SmackDown last night yet. I don't know if any overnights come in yet. I'm sure those reports will be, if they're not already up, they'll be floating around soon. And if it's bad, like if it's really bad, and I have said this as someone who as someone who has said in the past, we have to we can't continue to hold ratings strictly as a judge of the business right now, because we've never had a time in the business like this, and they're not necessarily going to be a true measure of where the business is at. But from a television network standpoint, you can't have that kind of patience. And we're not talking a cable network. This is a major broadcast network whole.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how much time they can give, and if they can cut out and save them money, because again, it's something like $200 million a year that they're paying Vince. If they can save that in lieu of reality programming or anything else they can put up on Friday night,
oh yeah, they'll cut it.
This is the day and age where they cut it.
We're talking the ratings with the AEW and NXT. I just found a tweet. Someone tweeted, Cole versus Lee destroy Jericho versus Cassidy, 992,000 versus 675,000. So, Le Champion replies, first off, that number is wrong. Secondly, we still won the quarter-hour demo. Sorry, Skippy. Try again next time.
It definitely seems it seems like the roles are kind of reversed from the Monday Night Wars, to where, in the late 90s, WWE was trying to do the edgy thing and trying to gather the male 18 to 49 demo, and now they're trying to be everything to everyone, and AEW's like, forget that, we want that young male
exactly
hormonal audience. And that's the product. So it's the complete other. It's the opposite of the way things were going to go on. It seems like this company has completely forgot how to fight an actual promotional war.
Yeah, let's hope they get their shit back together.
Just like all their stands on Twitter.
What's that about?
Well, you sent me that video earlier in the week from this past week's Being the Elite, where the Young Bucks, rightfully so, slagged them off for having one of their fucking workers spoil the main event at a taped show that hadn't aired yet. And I laughed, as I should have. That's funny. That's funny.
Such good shit. Funny.
That is such good shit.
That's right.
But then I sat there, and I know I broke my own rule, and I started reading the comments oh, well, that was just unprofessional. Minor league. Like, bitch, you're defending a company that drove an Army surplus vehicle and tried to literally invade their competition's event the last time they had to do this. You would have not made it 5 minutes during the Attitude Era. Yeah, it's completely different, but, oh, well, we got to be hands off with our competition. It's your competition. If you're the little guy and you're trying to take on the big dog, you bite at their ankles every opportunity you can get. That's that's the concept of punching up. I'm so sorry to all the Stanford stands on Twitter who are, oh, well, it's unprofessional to take swings at your competition. Well, eat my ass.
When you're the smaller dog, you have that opportunity to go ahead and attack the bigger dog. The bigger dog doesn't really attack the smaller dog. It's like we both worked in radio, and when I worked on a smaller station, you know, we would attack and, you know, change the words of, you know, a show called The Morning Flush. You know, when we'd attack them and make jokes about it. And, you know, they weren't going to come back at us because we were a smaller station.
Right. And that's, I mean,
that's just kind of the way it's kind of the same thing. You can't attack the smaller dog.
Well, I mean, it's the way that whole thing comes up. Like I said, you swing at where you want to be, and if the role ever reverses, it's the other way. It's not in your interest to be punching down because then you're the bully.
Exactly.
And you look better by just doing your thing and being yourself. And competition, please, we're number one. Who's our competition? Yeah. Number two, well, yeah. What else are we gonna do? We're gonna swing at number one until we get there. Yeah. So yeah, all the little Stanford stands on Twitter can like completely suck it. Unprofessional conduct. Please. Get into a business where there is something like this competition and then tell me about it. Worst Twitter timeline I have ever been in.
It was awful. Oh, man. So, let's see here. Where'd it go? I had it. Raw this past week. You know, back in April, we had a bunch of guys who were future endeavored. Let go.
Dislocated. I ain't salty. I ain't salty, though. That should probably get cut, too.
Mark, all right.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Right before that. One of them actually returning this past Monday night on Raw in the form of Heath Slater.
And interestingly enough, he didn't want to do it.
He wasn't keen on it.
He wasn't necessarily keen on it. Had to be convinced to do it. I mean, it probably helped they didn't want to use his pool, but they just wanted him to show up. But it was a cool little moment between he and former 3MB member Drew McIntyre now, and you had to say something for Heath Miller himself to say, look, I'm mentally beyond that. I don't want to. I'm moving on a different part of my life and my career. I'm like, come on, just one more shot for us. It'll be a thing for us, which is a cool moment.
Yeah, he wasn't really keen on it. Finally, he did it. And funny thing in his little promo he was doing on Drew McIntyre about how he always left him behind, all that kind of stuff. Mentioning, and I have a family. Not the 20 kids that they all think I have. No, my actual 3 children. And I'm like, breaking the fourth wall. Okay,
well, I mean, just by bringing him in, you're breaking the fourth wall.
That's true.
By having the guy return and show up with a new shirt saying free agent, you're breaking the fourth wall.
I loved it.
It was great. It was done perfectly. That was one thing. That's a highlight of me for Monday night. It really was. Which is what the frustrating part is. They can do things like that are entertaining and don't insult the fans and can help advance all of their characters. And instead we have a karaoke challenge.
Stop bringing it up!
Nope, I'm not going to stop saying the bad stuff's bad.
But what was one of the good things out of the whole Monday night was, at the end, he just got destroyed by Drew McIntyre pretty quickly. And then Heath Slater starts beating up, or Dolph Ziggler starts, going after Heath Slater. And Drew McIntyre comes back down, does a save, whatever. And they end up, throwing up the 3MB high five thing, and they hug, and that was it. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both of them, Heath Slater, Drew McIntyre, being part of a group along with Jinder Mahal, who were, I would say, a jobber team. In my mind, they kind of were.
Oh, absolutely, they were. They're absolutely. I mean, the whole
a jobber stable, just like B Team.
Yeah, well, kind of, but I mean, the B Team at least got the straps that they went back and forth with the Eaters of Worlds or whatever it was that they were calling themselves. Because for a while, those were the two tag teams on Raw.
Stupid. But so I kind of go along with them as being a jobber stable. All right. Let's see. What do we got?
I'm sorry. I pulled another doc up because I assumed that was your segue.
Yeah, we can go to it. I was going for it, but I wasn't sure if that's what you wanted to do. So our top 5 this week. We're going to start. We'll do our top 5 here in a second. Our top 5 were top 5 best jobbers. So let's go in to our top 5. There we go. Top 5. Top 5 best jobbers. We gotta get sound effects, man. Where do I find a button bar?
You can go to my phone, but it does not really going to help us.
You have one on your phone?
Yeah.
All right. Number 5, Dan. What's your number 5 in your top 5? Your top 5 best jobbers. Number 5.
Well, let's be clear, because I know not everybody who's listening might have a clear, concise idea of jobbers, because only recently did we start seeing matches with jobbers again. Yes. On television. But it's a guy, it's also known as curtain jerker, jabroni, palooka, or carpenter, which is a more polite term to say. The idea is that the carpenter is what builds your stars up. So this is the guy on TV who is there to lose to your name guys. If you watched any wrestling television in the 80s and 90s, it was like every match that you see on TV, except for like the one main event match where two names went at it, and then that's how you wanted to see the big stars when they came to your town. So your jobber was there to make everyone else look good. And part of the appeal, part of the dichotomy of being a jobber is you have to be good at your craft to make everyone else look good. Mm-hmm. So my number 5 guy is a guy that definitely did that. He has been seen everywhere in American wrestling for the last 30 years. George South, who was, because I guess he's still, at least up until a couple of years ago, still working. Great hand in the ring. One that Ric Flair wanted to work with, so he could wrestle the guy and get all of his stuff in and do a whole bunch of stuff with George South while he was world champion in the 80s. A wrestler, trainer, booker, promoter. He also has a special place in wrestling history as one of the 2 opponents of the worst idea in all of professional wrestling of all time, the Ding Dongs.
I don't remember them. Maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, okay. Well, you go ahead and do that, and I'll find you a video for later on.
That's your number 5?
That's my number 5.
My number 5 was a guy in one of the best outfits probably ever, and I think is basically just made out of gray duct tape. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Gray duct tape? I do not.
It was just gray. It was just basically straps
Yeah, I think. Well, not. No, I don't now.
Bastion Booger.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean,
Never mind.
the guy named him Bastion Booger.
I was thinking of something else.
Kind of what he looked like. I mean, he was, to me, one of the first jobbers that I can remember off the top of my head from whenever I watched periodically with my grandpa when I was a lot younger. I just remember that I'm not a small guy. I don't know if you can tell or not, but that big ass and that gray outfit.
And he was he wasn't necessarily pitched as a jobber. He just ended up that way because I mean, the gimmick was so terrible to begin with. There was no place for it to go.
Nowhere, not at all. You know, when you go back and you look at it and you think of, no, not at all. That is my number 5. Dan, who is your number 4?
Well, my number 4 is actually 2 number 4s.
2 number 4s? That is not possible! You've
sure,
got to have only 1!
Nope, because it's a tag team, jackass.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were saying there. I thought you had like, oh, these 2 people. All right, I got you.
Yeah, these 2 people, real-life brothers Bill and Randy Mulkey. They were staples in the Southeast in the 70s, late 70s and 80s, losing all over the area, reaching their greatest heights with Jim Crockett Promotions in the mid and late 90s. You'd see them almost every week, and they would be on the receiving end of ass-kickings from some of the greatest tag teams of the era. The Four Horsemen, the Freebirds, the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez, they all kicked the Mulkey brothers' asses. As Jim Cornette described them, they could take a great beating. And still talk about Charlotte, the wrestling out of Charlotte. They are still remembered for taking those ass kickings.
Another one I don't really know much about, but all right. I'll have to look at all the ones you have. You told me that you probably wouldn't have any of the same.
No, probably not.
Yes, my number 4 is 3 people.
Did you just give me shit for 2 and you're like, oh, I got 3. I got a stable.
Yep, that's why I did it. It's 3, and we were just talking about them.
Yep.
Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal, and Drew McIntyre. 3MB. 3 guys who played air instruments.
Would you have preferred Rock Band playing actual Guitar Hero guitars in the ring?
I think that'd been funnier.
Then have I got a tag team for you?
I mean, I like the guys, but like I told you, to me they were
that gimmick.
They were a jobber stable. Poor Heath Slater. He was
the only one that
jobber. He stayed a jobber, being taken out. But never mind. Forget that. So that's my number 4. It's 3MB, Jinder Mahal, Heath Slater, Drew McIntyre. I always forget his name. Drew McIntyre. And 2 out of the 3 becoming world champions.
Right. So
which that's kind of a. I wanted to put them on the list, but I was like, but 2 out of the 3 became actual world champions.
Yeah, they did.
And one of them celebrated his world champion win right here in Toledo.
Oh, yeah.
In a Bollywood party.
You were there, weren't you?
I was there. It was awful.
Yeah. Didn't get any better in person, huh?
No, it wasn't any better in person. That's my number 4. Dan, who is your number 3?
My number 3... I believe officially holds the title as the loudest man in the history of wrestling. Iron Mike Sharp helped define the WWF television back in the 80s. He held that jobber to the stars slot. I mean, he came in with a lot of hype and actually got a title shot against Bob Backlund in 1983, but after that, he kind of fell by the wayside, and every week he'd be there facing off against everyone on all levels of the card, making him look good, giving him a physical fight, and then eventually putting him over. Canada's greatest athlete is also been notorious for his cleanliness and devotion to personal fitness. The joke, I think it was Gorilla Monsoon, told a story at one point about him apparently going to have his match and then spending so much time afterwards in the shower that in the Boston Garden that they locked up and he had to spend the night in the garden because he was still in the shower. He would also be another one of those guys who would go on and train later on in his careers and introduced a whole new generation of stars to the business, like Hollywood Nova and Charlie and Russ Haas.
All right. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell if that was done if you were just taking a breather. That's your number 3. My number 3 is someone that, you know, he's had quite a few names. I think Doink was one of them. Knuckleball Schwartz was one of them. The Brooklyn Brawler was another one. Steve Lombardi. He, along with 3MB, are just a stable of just pure just jobbers. He's like one of the original, just whenever they needed him to come out and job to whoever, they brought him out for it. He just is a pure jobber. It's a good guy, but just, yeah, pure jobber. I liked all the gimmicks. The Knuckleball Schwartz.
It's awful. That was their response to the baseball strike in '94 was to have somebody paint her face up like a baseball.
Poor guy.
Bottom of the.
Is he still around?
To be continued.
Okay, I've heard nothing about him, so I have no idea. But that's one of the ones I remember as just being a pure jobber. So Dan, who's your number 2?
My number 2. Well, if you recognize this name, go ahead and give yourself a great pat on the back if you remember Barry Horowitz.
I was Adam, but I knew you were going to, so I didn't.
Another one of those solid hands in the ring. It was another guy who made his way to the biggest promotion in the business, was regularly seen on TV, even got himself involved in a number of like lower and mid card angles. I mean, remember Horowitz wins, and got a win on pay per view. Won a match at SummerSlam and was one of the foremost well known jobbers of all time. So ignore the fact they had to nerd him up to give him any semblance of character there in 1995. Number 2 is definitely Barry Horowitz.
Barry Horowitz. All right. My number 2 should not be on this list. This man was so over that he could have probably got a title run and everyone would have loved it. But instead, they had him being the understudy for The Miz in Damien Sandow. Did you ever see any of that, Dan?
I completely missed it. Wasn't he one of like the only 2 people to win the Money in the Bank and then not cash it in?
I think so, yeah. But he was The Miz's understudy. So he'd be on the outside of the ring doing everything The Miz does. When The Miz would get hit and fall back, take a bump, he'd be on the outside the ring taking a bump. He was mimicking everything. I mean, it was hilarious to watch. But he could have ran with the title. He was so over. You know, The Miz's gimmick where he would take his sunglasses off, and they would crowd would cheer just a little bit. But when Damien Mizdow, I guess is what his name was at that point, they would take his glasses off, the crowd went nuts. He was so over. I'll have to find some clips and show you, because he, like I said, he could have ran with the title, and he wasn't given that chance, and which is sad.
But your current NWA National Heavyweight Champion.
What was that?
I said your current NWA National Heavyweight
Champion.
Oh,
is he?
Yes.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Aaron Stevens is not completely out of the business.
See, I thought he was completely done. I didn't know he was still wrestling.
No, not at all.
There you go. That's my number 2. Dan, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I got a couple, and I imagine that there's some names that you're not going to know. Rene Goulet, you're not going to know. You've seen him on television as a he was a road agent for years for the WWF, but was a solid hand in Canada and then a jobber in the 70s and 80s. One Heath Slater, who stayed a jobber despite the success of his three-man band compatriots. S.D. Jones, the poor guy that lost in 9 seconds at WrestleMania 2 or WrestleMania to King Kong Bundy. One that somebody, a few people would dispute, but let me put it this way: Leaping Lanny Poffo, before he was the genius, he was just the undercard jobber. Tony DeVito, one of the names that was all over Superstars in the early to mid '90s, and of course, Dwayne Gill, the greatest run of all time as Gillberg. I believe the record holder for the longest reign as WWF Light Heavyweight Champion. More than 2 years as the champion. Sure, he never defended the title, but he held it for more than 2 years, and that counts for something.
Yeah. That's your honorable mentions?
Those are my mentions.
Mine are just two. One being Heath Slater. Just like you had him in yours. Right. I had him as my honorable mentions too because I already had 3 MBs, so I couldn't put him on there with the top 5. But Heath Slater. And a guy who he did get a title run and won a great WrestleMania moment winning the IC title in a ladder match. The Internet Champion, Macadona, Zack Ryder. He was, in my mind, he wasn't really maybe a full jobber.
Well,
but he had a lot of moments.
He did.
A lot of jobber moments.
He did a lot of jobber. Well, that's because for whatever reason the company would not get behind him, even though everyone was telling like, "Hey, this is a guy we like. We want to get behind him." And
exactly.
They're like, "Nah, we're gonna go to Long Island and bury you, bro."
Long Island, IC, Zack Ryder. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. So Dan, let's get to your number 1 top jobber.
Well, I asked myself this question, and as I wrote this down, could there be anyone else at number 1? And apparently there is. But the correct answer is no, they're not. It's Steve Lombardi. It's the Brooklyn Brawler.
All right.
Period. End of story. As an active part of the WWE for more than 30 years, this was the guy that worked with all the guys when they first debuted for the company.
Damn it! I almost had him at number 1.
Even as an enhancement, yeah, you missed out there. Even as an enhancement talent, he was able to get over when paired earlier in his career as the Brawler with Bobby Heenan. He had a WrestleMania angle because he was the heavy that went out to take Red Rooster out, who had recently left Heenan's Coop, and Red Rooster's a whole other thing. Terry Taylor could have also made this list. I mean, what are like I said, name another jobber that got an angle at WrestleMania, accompanying the Brain to WrestleMania 5 for his match against the Brawler. Name me another jobber that got a title shot against Shawn Michaels at Madison Square Garden and went 15 minutes with the champ and eventually only lost because of Helmsley and Chyna's outside interference. Name me a jobber that... Name me anyone that pinned Triple H early in the Reign of Terror. The Brawler did that. Main eventers can't say they've pinned Triple H clearly.
It's true.
Cleanly. Not just, just in general. He semi-retired from, to follow up where he's been, he semi-retired from active competition in 98, but, you'd see him on TV because he worked with the company until his release in late 2016.
Okay.
So, who else can say they had a 30-plus year career that went around the world, were at the highest height of their profession, and they were a loser for the majority of that time? The Brawler, that's who.
There you go. See, I had him at number 1, and then I flipped him with my next one. My one I put at number 1.
I don't know your number 1, but I'm probably going to tell you were better off leaving them the way they were.
Probably, but I'm stupid.
Your words.
Thanks, asshole. Gilbert at my number one top jobbers.
I mean, he was part of the job squad.
Exactly. That's, I think, one of the reasons why I bumped him up to number one. But, I mean, his gimmick, mocking Goldberg.
Oh, hey, there you go. What do you know? It's someone from the WWE mocking and making fun of another promotion. What do you know?
There you go. So, yeah, Gilbert being my number one top jobbers. God dang it, I should have left it. But at least we had one on the list that were the same.
And honestly, that was the one I assumed we'd have both. I assumed the Brawler would make both of our lists.
To me, it was going to be that guy, either the Brawler, or it was going to be Gilbert.
Yeah, I guess it is an honorable mention. As soon as we came up with this, I was like, well, George Roth is going to be on there. The Mulkeys have got to be on there. Obviously, Brawler's number one. That was never, I started, as soon as I finished the blog post for last week's show and posted everything, I just keep one solid document for my top fives. So I deleted everything, and immediately, number one, the Brooklyn Brawler. And then just started writing names down underneath it, just deciding who was going to go
order I
where.
want to put it in there. Gotcha. All right, so let's take a look and get our top five, because we didn't do that last week. So what is our next top five?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We kind of drew after the actual show, didn't we? I forgot
to do it.
Whoops. I just need one piece of paper here. And let's see how... Is this going to be fun, or is this going to be painful? Come on, open up. Oh, this could be fun. This is going to take some work for you, though.
Ah, shit.
Next week, we're going to unveil our top 5 best ECW World Champions.
Vince McMahon!
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and delete your half of this podcast. That's all right. I can just do that. Let's go ahead. Go ahead. It won't be a problem.
So, best ECW.
Let me give you a hint. I will tell you right now, here and now, there will be no WWE ECW champions on the list. I know you're shocked.
What?
If Sabu makes it, it will be for his previous reigns, not for the little bit of time that he got. Did he even reign in the WWE? I don't even remember. I blocked that out. That was the era of wrestling that I just said, you know what? Out.
All right. So, top 5 ECW champions.
Yep.
So, why don't we make we'll put a little caveat on that. Top 5 original ECW champions.
Actual ECW champions.
Okay.
Got it.
That way, we just kind of get rid of that. And
fine by me.
Don't do it. I didn't think you were going to do it, but you never know.
No, I expected you to do it just to piss me off.
I thought about it. I thought about putting Vince on it.
I assumed you would just do 5. It would be Vince,
Bobby Lashley,
Ezekiel Jackson, Kane, and Chavo Guerrero.
Oh, I would have done it too.
I know you would have. That's why.
Just to piss you
that's
off.
why I put it out there initially.
Because you know what?
I am dumb, but I am not so dumb.
If I would have done that, you know what? That would have been such good shit. Sorry. I need time to do that.
I mean, stop trying to make fetch a thing.
It's already a thing. Alright. So that's our new top 5 for next week. Top 5 OG ECW champions. If you have your top 5 best jobbers from this week, let us know in our post on this video right here on our Facebook page. Post it right down there. Boom. Say, hey, this is my top 5 best jobbers, and just let us know who you pick. Also, if you want on this post, or even just in a message or whatever, let us know your OG ECW champions. And after we do our top 5 next week, we'll read a few of them. Be part of the show. talk with us and have fun with us. So every week you can find us right here, facebook.com/thefinisherpodcast. You can find us on all of our podcasting networks, including now iHeartRadio Podcast Network. You can find out all that information over at thefinisherpodcast.com. Thefinisherpodcast.com. And figure out where all you can find us. Read the blogs. Find everything after the show. You want to rewatch the show, you missed it, you can head over to thefinisherpodcast.com, find the video, and watch it. It'll be on YouTube probably in a few hours from now as we're live. And you can find us at YouTube. That's also at thefinisherpodcast.com. You can find all those links there. Follow us, subscribe, like, share, everything. Show your friends. And we will see you guys again next week. Dan, anything you want to add? No?
I was waiting for the outro.
Oh.
So you would just go into that.
All right. If you had anything to say, so hey, guys, have a great day.
I've got blisters on me fingers!